Hi guys, and welcome back to yet another review. This time around I'm going to bring you 3 IEMs from KZ which have been launched over the last couple of weeks. They are the Libra, which is available in two versions, the high resolution version and the balanced version. For this particular review I've only got the high resolution version. The balanced hasn't arrived. But when I do get it, I will endeavor to let you guys know what I think about it. Then there's the Vader. This is a single dynamic, by the way. Then we have the Vader, which is a triple DD, and it's available in a balanced and in a high resolution version. I've got both versions here. And then we have the MERGA, which is a dual dynamic driver, available only in one single version. In terms of values, we are talking about roughly $12 to $14 here for the Libra. The Vader between $25 and $30, and the MERGA around the $18-19, $16 to $18 roughly. So well within the budget realm of things. With regards to, and I'm actually going to start here with the Vader. With regards to the Vader, there's, as I mentioned, there's a balanced version and there's a high resolution version. They are basically the CCA trio, especially the balanced version. It's in essence a trio, just with a different faceplate. It's also got the switches. I'm using it in the setting which I like the most, which is the 1100, which is the one that boosts the bass. And you know, basically what I've said for the trio applies. Yeah, it's got a very nicely done bass performance. I mean, it's full. It's you know, it's really nice. It complements the mids and the highs beautifully. Look, let's not get into demanding or expecting too much when it comes to ultimate technicalities. But having said that, the technical capabilities of the Vader in the balanced version, in the bassy version, let's put it that way, are more than capable. And the reality is this: I mean, between this and the Rhapsody, you know, you have just a little bit more resolution in the Rhapsody, which was the case already between the trio and this one's got the more, let's say organic sound, and that's exactly what happens here with the Vader in the balanced version. It's exactly the same thing as the trio. They sound the same. I mean, I've got a trio there. I connected one and the other and listened one and the other, and they are the same. They measured the same. I'll show you the graphs in a second. You know, there's no point in me prolonging too much. Really nice IEM. The different version, or the alternative version, which is the high resolution, is slightly different. The bass, instead of being the tactile bass that we have on the balanced version, it's now a gliding style of bass. And basically what they've done here is what they did previously with the caster, the Harman version of the caster and the bass version of the caster. It's the same sort of deal. In terms of what this sounds like, obviously having a different bass presentation or performance, being, as I said, gliding, it opens up the mids, so there's a lot more detail in the mids and the vocals and in the resolution as well as a whole. Treble is cleaner, but at the same time, and this is just my personal opinion, I just feel that much like what was the case with the caster in the Harman version and the caster in the bass version, you also notice a certain tendency of it to be a little bit thin sounding with, you know, when it comes to certain songs. It just you know, look, it's nothing offensive. It's a extremely easy IEM to drive, and I would suggest you know, if you're going to use a dongle, use a warmer sounding dongle. That's my opinion. Choose your tips carefully. I mean, the foams work okay, which comes, I preferred it with the KB Eero 7s, be it in the large size or the medium size, which I also tried it out. They both, you know, they measured basically the same, and they fit me nicely either way. I found that with the larger size, it just sounded, it just kind of came together slightly better. I can't really explain why, but it just came together nicely. Look, it's like I was saying, it's a detail, it's a more detailed version of the balanced version, mainly because we don't have as much bass. And that, yes, if it does open up the sound and gives the vocals a little bit more detail and gives especially the female vocals open, it also can bring out that little bit of thinness in the sound, and even occasionally we can even get a sort of a timbre or tonality, which I was myself picking up, which can be kind of a little bit on the metallic-y side. Let's put it that way. There's no BAs, there's no plain Rs here, but it can be a little bit like that. So overall, personally, my personal opinion or my personal preference will be on the balanced version, which is exactly the same as the trio, which is an IEM that I thoroughly enjoyed. Okay, so I guess that's enough here for the Vader. Be it one version or the other, the mids and the highs and the mids, upper mids and treble are very good. The differentiating factor here is the bass performance on the high resolution versus the bass performance on the balanced, which that extra weight, that extra energy that is present just makes the whole thing come together in a more organic type of presentation, while over here it's more clinical sounding. It's non-offensive, but if over there you can push the volume and it scales, nicely, and it's an enjoyable IEM to listen to. At least I enjoy it. Over here, the scaling is not as successful, because as you start pushing the volume, you notice that the upper mids and the trebles, they just come out a little bit more over the bass, and that's where especially you start noticing that thinness. Okay, so that's that one out of the way. Now let's get out of the way as well the Merga. The Merga is using two dynamic drivers in a stacked configuration, just like the caster bass and the caster Harman used before it. And from what I was able to ascertain, the drivers are slightly different to the drivers used in the caster. There's a little bit of a difference there. Again, any one of these three actually, or well, these four versions, they all follow that new tendency of KZ signature, which is kind of a Harman with more or less energy in the mids and upper mids and treble, with more or less energy in the bass, but they've got kind of like that Harmonish kind of style going on. And the Merga, as compared to the caster, which is the IEM that I went and fetched to give it some reference, it doesn't have the tuning switches, so you basically stuck on the one position, which is a position which and when I show you the graphs, you'll see, which really emphasizes the mids, upper mids and treble. And so what you get here in the Merga is even a brighter, if you want to put it that way, even a more high energy version of the Harman caster. Again, when it came to the caster, I prefer the caster as well in the bass configuration. I prefer that version of it with its stacked bass. I just thought it came out together nicely. The bass versions, be it there or in the trio or in the Vader, the interesting thing about it is that they are able, that bass that's present is able to camouflage a little bit the deficiencies that might occur higher up in the frequency range with regards to some harshness that might appear or some lack of polish. So that's why I prefer those. These ones, the Merga and the high resolution version of the Vader, you will notice a little bit more that the space, the details, and the technicalities are definitely improved. Bigger sensation of soundstage and everything, but it comes accompanied as well with a presentation that can become a little bit more fatiguing. And especially the Merga, I have to say that I was a little bit overwhelmed by how energetic it is and how lean the bass is. So it even, I mean, this is not maybe the ideal comparison, but it almost kind of feels like I was listening to a BA set, because it's got so much energy placed in the mids, upper mids and treble, that I guess there will be people that will enjoy it, undoubtedly, but I personally just felt that it was just too much, too overwhelming. It's got a 10 and an 8mm driver, just for for the sake of referencing, which is basically the same configuration as you had in the Caster. The Vader got it uses 8mm drivers, 3 of them, which with each one of those drivers kind of handling a specific area of the frequency range. So dual DD covered, triple DD covered. I'll give the conclusions in the end. With regards here to the Angelears Libra, and like I said, I've only got here the high resolution version. I don't have the balanced version, so the moment I do get it, I will definitely compare. It's got a sound that the moment I listened to it reminded me very much of the ZVX. Okay, there's also well, to be totally fair, it's a ZVX DFI kind of vibe going on here. Although the tendency is to be more towards the ZVX than towards the DFI. The DFI out of these two was always the one that sounded maybe a little bit leaner, slightly leaner, while the ZVX was a little bit more bass emphasized. The ZVX didn't have the switches. The DFI did have the tuning switches, which enabled for some little bit of a fine tuning. But in the case of the DFI, I've always used it with the 1110 setting, which is emphasizing the bass as much as possible, because if the bass isn't emphasized, we fall into a situation which kind of is like the Merga, a lot of mids, upper mids and treble, but not enough bass. So in that configuration of the 1110, it's got enough bass energy to kind of give a nice all-rounded sound, almost similar to the ZVX, although again I preferred always the ZVX over the DFI. Now the DFI was available in a non-switch version, and that non-switch version, when I talk about the DFI, is the one that I prefer, and actually that non-switch version is basically then the ZVX, to be totally fair. The LIBRA in this configuration here, which is the high resolution version, it kind of, like I said, falls into this vibe here, although I would say that the tendency is maybe a little bit more towards the DFI than towards the ZVX. I mean, the differences are minor, mind you, that they are really small. And what does that all mean? It means it's got a nice dynamic bass, it's clean, it's engaging, a little bit more when you, and I think as well that happens because of the shell. These are metal shells, this is a plastic kind of shell. There are instances where this is a little bit more, I would say, kind of comes across as a little bit more softer sounding in the bass, and I think that's the shell there, the resonance that's created internally, that's maybe taking making that effect. But at the same time, the interesting thing is, because of that fact, it is I don't know, tonally a little bit more, I'm not going to say correct, because none of them offended me in any way, but it just sounds, how can I'm trying to find the best word to kind of describe it. It just sounds a little bit more elegant, let's put it that way. I think it's probably the best way of characterizing it. It sounds a little bit more elegant than those two can sound at times, especially with female vocals. That was where I picked up that biggest difference. So bass is nice. It's got a nice clean dynamic bass, great mids, upper mids and treble, very nice. I mean, obviously there are songs where you notice that, the scaling that it does, and that's one of the aspects that made me as well also prefer the ZVX over the DFI, the switched version one, which was the ZVX always seemed to scale a little bit better somehow than the DFI. Mind you, let me repeat this, these are minor, really minor differences. There's really not huge differences in here. So, like House of Groove from Eugene Groove, or La Belle Dame Sans Regrets from Chris Botti. I mean, that plays it nice, but you can feel there's a tendency of it wanting to be more on the clinical side. The ZVX is a little bit more on the organic, old school type, and this is kind of like a blend of the two, okay? And I think that blend of the two is basically down to the shell being what it is. Yeah, technically, again, let's not let's be realistic. I sometimes hear some of my fellow colleagues going all out on that aspect with regards to like budget IEMs and so on and so forth. I mean, obviously, I would like to have a $20 IEM that has the technical capabilities of a $2,000 IEM. That'd be amazing. That would be like the holy grail. That would be the perfect IEM. But no, we have to be realistic. We have to, I think, in my opinion, expect based on the price. So, when I look at the price and how capable the library is in terms of the Libra, is in terms of its soundstage and imaging, I can't criticize it. I really can't. And it's basically on par with the ZVX and the DFI. So that's basically it, guys. I mean, interesting releases from KZ. The one that I think will be the more lackluster, and the one that I would honestly not even recommend you guys listen to, is the MERGA. It's just, nothing special. The LIBRA is an interesting IM, but I mean, the truth is this: if you have the ZVX or the DFI, this makes no sense, honestly, because I mean, I've seen now during the sales lately the ZVX as low as $9. So metal shell, possibly the same driver being used, or same series of driver being used. Yeah, the same thing applies to the DFI. I will give it one thing, which is the small size that it has. It fits very nicely inside my ear. I mean, you can see the difference in size. Let me just get here. I mean, it seems like there isn't much difference in size, but trust me, there is a huge difference in size, especially when you look at it like this from the side. You can see that the Libra, they've oops, my apologies. You can see that the Libra is definitely a smaller IM, definitely a smaller IM. I mean, that's the DFI is a substantially more chunky IM, and that's something that does if you've got smaller ears, I will say that then yes, the Libra in that situation does perhaps have its place. As for the Vader, look, if you have the trio and you are thinking about the Vader in the balanced version, which is basically the same thing, don't, because you're going to be buying the same IEM. That's the reality. And if you don't have either and you are thinking of one of them, well, choose whichever is cheapest. That's the as for the version which is the high resolution version, I would say that yes, it can make some sense, but then again, it all very much depends what you are looking for ultimately. Like I mentioned earlier, particularly myself, I find that the balance that's struck in the version which has the more bass is nicer. It just gives it a nicer, more appealing, less fatiguing type of sound. But yeah, I mean, the out of all of these latest offerings here from KZ, the two that I think are the more solid ones and worth perhaps having a listen, and who knows, maybe even purchasing if that's what you want, or definitely the Libra and the high resolution version here of the Vader. Mainly because, like I said earlier, I mean, this has got a nice shell in terms of its size, which enables you to have, if you've got smaller ears, a sound which is comparable to the DFI or the ZVX in a smaller package, which is more friendly for your ears. And the Vader in the high resolution version, it gives you the triple DD configuration in a more technically capable setup. All right, guys, let me show you now quickly the graphs and we'll wrap it up. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section here for this triple KZ review of the KZ MERGA, the KZ Libra, and the Vader. Anyway, let me just take away some graphs so we can start. First one I'm going to show you is the CCA Trio. Okay, that's one of the sets that I have of the Trio, and this is the Vader, the balanced version. I mean, it's basically the same. This here, I'm not even going to pay attention to it. I'll tell you why, because I've got another set of trio that I measured, and that set of trio actually did also have this little kind of a little peak here, like this Vader has. So they're the same. It's not even, you know, it's there. Okay, so that's the trio gone. Now I'm gonna compare it to the Vader in the balanced version, so you guys can see what basically has happened. Let me just align them here for you guys at roughly 1K. I mean, I could do it also at 500K, at 500 hertz. It's not gonna really make a big difference. But I think, look, either way, the idea here is this energy that the bass has on the bassy version of the Vader is obviously substantially subdued. It's no longer tucked. It's a gliding style of bass. The mids are a little bit more emphasized, upper mids and treble, and so what you get is a very open sound. Okay. And whichever way I normalize it, because if I normalize it at 1K, you'll see that this is basically the same thing. The difference that exists here is because one is using a silicone tip and the other one is using a foam. That's why you don't get that peak there as prominent. But look, either way you look at it, it's evident that the bass has been traded out for more clarity. That clarity, as I mentioned, comes at the price of it then sounding maybe a little bit thinner, you know, perhaps leading to some premature fatigue, if you want to call it that way. But look, it is what it is, and overall I feel that the balanced version of the Vader is the more one that makes the most sense, which is basically the same thing as the trio. Okay, so that's that out of the way. Let me now show you the MERGA, and I'll show you the MERGA. Okay, here's the MERGA. The MERGA, as you can see, we have some vibes here of the let me align them here. We have some vibes here going. I'm gonna normalize it at 500. We have got some vibes here of the Vader in the high resolution version, but even more energy in the mids and upper mids and treble. And this energy, and if I take here as well, let me get here the caster to show you. So you have the caster also here, the KZ Harman caster there. Okay, and now align them all. Again, 500 hertz. All right. The interesting thing that you will see, let me actually just make here the caster in red so it kind of stands out a little bit more. The interesting thing that you will see is that at least on graph, there's a very high degree of similarity between the KZ caster Harman and the Vader, the high resolution. And actually, when you do listen to them, yes, they do sound kind of very similar, and they both end up suffering of the same issue, which is, yes, although they are very detailed and at lower volumes, it's actually quite interesting because you have a lot of this detail and twinklies and sparklies and all of that, and you know, when you start pushing the volume a little bit more, it's not that they can't take the volume, they can, but the scaling that comes across is not the best. And the MERGA, by nature of even having more energy, I mean, if we are talking in the caster, we have a pinna gain of about, so this is 68, that's 80, so about 12 dBs, roughly a little bit more on the Vader. On the MERGA, we have a 16 dB pinna gain, so ridiculous, honestly. And you know, if you really got sensation, some sensation of it being thin in the bass when it came to the caster Harman or the Vader in the high resolution version, the MERGA is you know, it takes the cake. I just feel that the MERGA, they could have done, I think they could have done a little bit better. That's it. This is way too energetic, and it's just a very fatiguing IEM to listen to. If you don't have much power, yes, I guess it will be interesting because you don't need much to drive it, and you will get a reasonable amount of volume. Anyway, that's the MERGA out of the way. We'll eliminate it straight away. The Vader bass we can eliminate it. The KZ Caster Harmon we can also eliminate it. This now leaves us here with the Libra, which is this one here. Let me just put it, take away here number, take away the Vader balanced for a second. Okay, this is the Libra. And the Libra, as I mentioned as well, it's got a nice. They've struck a nice balance. I mean, when I take it here and I compare it with the Vader in the high resolution version, let's just normalize them here. 500 hertz. The fact that they've lowered in the Libra the energy, that little extra amount, it just makes it come across then in a much more pleasant way in terms of its the amount of detail that you have, the musicality that it has. That's I think the deciding factor here is you're either going to get a more musical presentation or you're going to get a more clinical presentation, musical organic, or then a very clinical presentation, very cold clinical presentation. So when you compare the Vader here with the Libra, I mean the Libra will perhaps even be more satisfying because of the fact that it's got a little bit more warmth. Okay, it might lose a little bit in details and so on, but it's nothing dramatic, and it's just a very pleasant listen. But that listen, like I said as well, reminded me very much so of other IEMs that I had heard already from KZ, namely the ZVX, which I'm now going to play so you guys can see, and that's the ZVX. It's the same thing, and it also reminded me to a certain extent of the DFI, which is this one again. All three there presented. Now the interesting thing that you'll notice here is not so much in the bass that you see, at least graphically, big differences. It's how things then behave themselves up top. And although it seems like the DFI would probably be the more subdued one, the reality is it's the one that actually does have I don't know, it just sounds a little bit brighter as compared to the other ones. I don't know if it's maybe the fact that it's got that little extra energy there, although, I mean, let me just take away here quickly okay, this is the DFI compared with the Libra. I don't know, when I listen to the Libra and I listen to the DFI, I pended towards the Libra more times. It just sounded more pleasant to me more times, although graphically you would think otherwise. And the ZVX, when I listened to the ZVX compared to the Libra, I got very much the same sort of timbre, tonality, vibe, overall performance, very equal. And that's that, guys. I mean, I think it's a reasonably easy review to do, in the sense that there's really not much more than I can say to what I've already said. Obviously, if there are comparisons that you guys would like me to make with other IEMs, I will do my very best to compare them. I'll probably make a review comparing the Libra with some of the other budget or ultra budget single ED IEMs out there. Probably the Gate from Truth Years, and maybe the EW100 as well, because it is a nice sounding IEM. It does sound nice. It does sound for what it is, and but look, if you have the ZVX, as I mentioned, it doesn't make sense. But let's compare it, since this is the latest single DD from KZ. Let's compare it to the other players. Maybe even perhaps I'll throw in the 1 year as well, and see how it stacks up. Alright guys, as always, like and subscribe. Any questions you might have, please feel free to ask me. Okay, you take care now. Bye bye.